Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really big idea from health educator Barbara O'Neill. It's a perspective that challenges the very way we think about our health and our bodies. The core question is this: is our fate already written in our genes? Let's get right into it. So let's just start there. Is your health written in stone? Are you just, playing out some biological script that was handed to you the moment you were born? It's a heavy question for sure, but it's at the absolute center of what we're talking about today. For a long, long time, the story we've all been told is pretty much one of genetic determinism. You know the one. The idea that our genes, the DNA we get from our parents, basically deals us our hand for life. If you've got a gene for something, well, you're probably going to get it. End of story, right? Well, this is where Barbara O'Neill's framework comes in and flips that whole idea on its head. She puts forward this radical counter-narrative, the idea that we aren't just stuck with our genetic inheritance. And this quote, it really captures her core philosophy, that we are the ones in charge, that our choices are what shape our health. Okay, so this is where we really start to dig in. The first huge idea here is challenging that whole concept of genetic determinism. We're going to explore the perspective that the choices you make every single day, what you eat, how you live, can have a massive impact on how your genes actually behave, effectively putting you in the driver's seat. So the concept that kind of makes all this possible is something called epigenetics. Now, the important thing to get here is that it's not about changing your DNA itself. It's about influencing which parts of your DNA get turned on or turned off. Think of it like this. Your DNA is this enormous library full of books. Your lifestyle choices, they're the librarian, deciding which books get pulled off the shelf and actually read. All right, now this leads us to what's probably one of the most specific and, most controversial parts of this paradigm, the theory about genetically modified foods. So let's just break down the viewpoint that's presented in the source material. This quote right here, it gets right to the heart of it. The argument being made is that when we genetically modify food, we're creating brand new proteins. The theory then suggests that our DNA, which has evolved for thousands of years, just doesn't have a blueprint for these new proteins. It doesn't recognize them, and so it can't use them correctly to build new cells. So here's how that chain of events is supposed to work, step by step. It starts when you eat a GMO food. Then, your body comes across these proteins it supposedly doesn't recognize. According to this theory, that messes up the whole process of cell division, which then leads to what O'Neill calls mutated cells. You can see the whole theory really hinges on this idea of biological recognition. Okay, so that's the theory. But what does it actually mean for the food on your plate? Well, the framework uses the example of wheat to make this whole thing a lot more concrete. It draws a really sharp line in the sand between ancient types of wheat and the modern stuff. And you can see the comparison laid out pretty clearly here. On one side, you've got modern hybridized wheat. It's criticized for its modified structure and really high gluten content. But on the other side, you have these ancient grains, things like kamut and spelt. And in this view, these grains have proteins that our bodies can still recognize and use properly. This difference is absolutely key to the dietary advice that follows. So, if we are the masters of our destiny, what does that actually look like day to day? We've talked about the why, so now let's get into the how. This next part moves us from all the theory into the practical, actionable steps that are recommended within this whole paradigm. So here's the game plan, and this comes directly from Module 7 of her teachings. It starts with a total avoidance of GMOs, which is based on that recognition theory we just talked about. Then, it's about choosing those ancient grains and really prioritizing organic food to avoid what the sources call inbuilt pesticides. And the ultimate recommendation? If you can, grow your own food from seeds you trust. And really, this is what it all boils down to. The main takeaway here, no matter where you land on the specific theories, is this message of empowerment. It's about shifting your mindset away from feeling like your genes have already decided your fate to believing that you have personal agency. The idea that your daily choices are the most powerful health tools you've got. So we'll leave you with this to think about. If the choices you make today could actually influence your health story tomorrow, what's the first change you'd make? It's a really powerful question, and it's at the heart of this entire paradigm. Thanks for digging into this with us.